Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Giant Dr. Griffin!
This is Diet Dr. Griffin here, back with another episode of the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. I'd given you a bit of a tease last week that I was going to have something special planned, and we have our first guest spot. My great friend Taylor has made some time out of her day to come out and talk to us. Taylor is a diehard Yankees fan and should bring some great stuff to the show. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's the end of the week. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I'm going to go see Carrot Top tonight if he's feeling better because he was out sick the past 2 nights. So hoping for a good time.
I mean, you're going to find a good time out on the strip in Super Bowl week. That's for sure.
Oh, yes. I've heard the Luxor, which is where Carrot Top plays, is the press hotel. So maybe I'll see some people, or those people just be out and about in other places doing fun stuff.
No doubt they are everywhere out there.
Yeah. So not a whole lot's happened this week in news. I mean, like Gary Sanchez signed a deal, which is nice, and Carlos Santana signed, but the biggest thing that happened this week is Jose Altuve signed a 5-year extension with the Houston Astros, and he's going to be there pretty much until he dies because he's an Astro for life, as they were saying. You got any thoughts about our little buzzer boy here?
I like the deal. We all know. Not everybody knows because not everybody has met me, but the two of us know I'm not Altuve, the man's biggest fan, right?
Yeah.
I believe he's a tremendous baseball player. There's just no doubt about that. But I do love this deal for both sides. I think that it's great. He gets to spend his entire career in Houston. I think that's awesome for any player to be able to achieve something like that, particularly with the benchmarks that he has made with them. I think it's awesome. I actually love the structure of the deal. I think it's reflective of, kind of everything, right? The age he'll be when the deal is over and just his overall value to the organization. So I thought that was a really good deal for both sides and a good deal for baseball.
Yeah, and I was reading up on his contract, and they've more or less front loaded the deal. So even though like his CBT value is going to be 25 per year across the board, they're only going to be paying him like, I think $10 million a year the last 2 years of the deal. And there's a signing bonus splashed in there. So they structured it well in that sense. Another thing I just realized is that Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers, man, they are only going to pay him $5 million this year. That's all he signed for. We just found out what the actual contract was.
I had only seen that it was looking like a year. So $5 million. When did you say he's supposed to be ready?
I think he's supposed to be ready like mid-season. He's recovering from shoulder issues.
Yeah. All right, $5 million for a half a year.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
How does he keep doing that? Like they signed for $20 million last year, and it's like, we'll pay you $5 million to show up, and he's gonna still be like one of the better pitchers when he's healthy. It's ridiculous how they keep getting away with this.
They keep getting away with it.
All right, so let's just delve into a bit of basics, because I don't think I've ever asked you about this, but how did you get into being a baseball fan?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I was born and raised in Vegas, so we didn't have any sports, right? So as a kid, kind of growing up, and football was kind of my first love, if you will. Just kind of evolved into a greater love of sports in general. And I fell in love with baseball really in high school. I had a couple of friends that were from the New York area and upstate specifically, but they were all Yankees fans. And I loved the constant like dialogue, the star power. It was like somebody even that didn't know a lot about baseball coming from Vegas team wise just to have that kind of notoriety, right? That lasting staying power, that elite team, if you will. I always was really attracted to that. And so I kind of just latched onto it and really never looked back. That was probably right around, let's see,
I like
2000,
the early 2000s. I was thinking like right as
right in the heyday of the
yeah,
rivalry.
yes, and I haven't discussed this on the show either, but I became a baseball fan because I grew up in Massachusetts as a, which is like diehard Red Sox country. So, Bill Buckner like telling the kids and playing baseball like get your hands down so you don't get the ball between your legs, because Buckner was like a real thing back then. And growing up with the curse that was a big part of my baseball life.
Yeah,
And
what was that like?
oh man, that was crazy because we had some big years in there where we lost to the Yankees, and then I remember in 2004 I had moved out here at this point. I was in college, and I remember I was actually at Aikido class during a lot of that time because the instructor, he was a diehard Red Sox fan too. So, we were both like going through it together, but following it as best we could at that time. It was pre, smartphones and everything, but
Yeah.
it was such a joy. You got any favorite baseball players right now?
Right now on the Yankees?
Or just right now, or just in general,
Right now in general, yeah, I do have a couple of favorites. I love Manny Machado. I've
Yeah.
been a big fan of Manny's for a long time since he was with the Orioles, AL East rival there in
Yeah.
his own right. Wanted Cashman to break the bank for him. Didn't happen. Wound up a state over from me in San Diego, and kind of here we are. So love him. I love Aaron Judge, the captain. Big fan of his right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, Shohei is taking over the world. Had the chance to see him pitch last year in Anaheim. What a blessing, honestly, just to be able to see him do what he does. And I was very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to see him in like the third row of the field box for $60 on a Tuesday. And I can promise you I'll never get that opportunity again.
Oh,
So
I
that
know.
was a good call.
Yeah, I made a trip out to see Otani, not last year, but the season before. I got to see him play against the Astros, and that was a heck of a game. He didn't do much behind the plate, but it was a good pitcher's duel between him and I think Luis Garcia was pitching for the Astros
Oh,
that
I
night.
bet that was a duel.
Yeah, I think
Can't
that
forget
game
about the
actually,
hometown kid, Bryce Harper.
yeah.
Love that guy. I didn't always. Bryce had to grow up a little bit for me to
Yeah,
really
I agree
embrace
with that.
him on all levels, but I believe that he's done that. I think that, I kind of think Vegas and Philly have a lot of similarities in terms of their fan bases as we're starting to build ours here. I mean, it's a gritty, blue collar, get the job done city. And I think that Bryce is perfect for it because of how he grew up here on the east side of Las Vegas. I grew up on the east side of Las Vegas. It's a tough, gritty, dog eat dog place. So
Yeah, the East Side's a
to
little
see
scary.
him thrive in that atmosphere is pretty cool. It's real cool.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite baseball movies?
Oh, this is embarrassing, but I do.
No, it's not
For love of
embarrassing.
the
Everybody's got
game.
love baseball movies.
For love of the game. Oh, it's just that one's up there for me.
I had never seen that movie until a few months ago, and I was pleasantly surprised with that movie. It was like the Kevin Costner was such the Kevin Costner that he is with baseball movies, but he was also like the least Kevin Costner that I've ever seen him too. He was like kind of a douchebag, for a lack of a better term. Like he was cheating
Yeah.
on his girl the whole time, and it was just this kind of weird thing. But he was also like the perfect guy to play the old aging pitcher as he's trying
Yes.
to, have his last go on the mound. And then they somehow got Vince Scully to be in the movie, which seemed kind of awkward for Vince Scully to be doing a Tigers Yankees
A
game. I think
Tigers broadcast? Yeah, no,
yeah, it was like I mean, Vince Scully's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it was like he's the Dodgers guy. How did he end up doing a random AL game?
Right. No, I totally agree. I think that was super it was a vulnerable role for Kevin, and I really appreciated it. I do love looking at the dynamic of that whole ride, well, with him on the mound,
Yeah.
reflecting kind of back on all of the personal things that had gotten him to that point. So I thought that was a really good hook.
It is a really good story structure and how they wrote it. I think a little too romantic for me, but
Sure, sure.
I liked the story though and how it like played out over the course of a single game. I think that was a really good idea.
Yeah.
There are movies that you watch like every single year because I know I got like three baseball movies I watch every year before the season starts.
Oh, sure. Moneyball.
Moneyball, that's one of the ones I watch on my list.
Yeah, Moneyball. Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that's the one with the Henry Rowe
Henry Rowan Gardner. Yes,
Yeah.
I probably watch that more than once a year.
You know, I remember seeing that movie in the theaters, but as I gotten older, I've always like grown to the other kid baseball movie at the time, Little Big League. You remember that one?
Oh, yes. Yes. Also a very good one.
Yeah,
There's so
like
many good ones.
yeah, this kind of reminds me of like being a fantasy manager when he's like having to cut his favorite player and it's just
Yes.
oh, it's so cruel. And
You just sit there, you've got that screen up with the ad drop.
yeah.
You feel like lighting a cigarette. Like it's tough.
And you know, I'm gonna Google this as I'm speaking, but I could have sworn like either the mom from Little Big League or the mom from that other movie, Rookie of the Year. I'm pretty sure she's like an actual mom of a present baseball player or something.
Oh, is that so? The blonde lady? That's
Yeah, I'm trying to think about who it is, and it's gonna like bother me all day if I don't figure it out. But yeah, let's see. Hold on, I almost got it. Yeah, okay. So there's a prospect in the Cubs system named Pete Crow Armstrong. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. I've actually seen him like in the fantasy draft start. People have been starting to look at him.
Oh, really?
So yeah, the mom from Little Big League is his mom.
Oh,
So like Pete Crow Armstrong is like one of these I think he's an outfielding prospect for the Cubs. We may see him this year. I know I've seen him around and heard his name before, but yeah, mom from Little Big League is mom of a
like the timing of that. Was he even born yet? Probably not, right?
I don't think so because he's born in 2002.
Oh, yes, so definitely not. Oh, that's painful to even think
Yeah,
about.
I know. That's when I graduated high school in
Sorry, I just aged
2002.
us.
So, oh man. So like the other movies that I watch every year, I always watch Bull Durham. Have you seen that one?
Oh, yes, another Costner.
Yeah. Yeah, you
That
know,
is a
like
really
that's
good one.
I don't even watch like everybody loves Field of Dreams, but I don't watch
That's not my favorite either. I've seen it. It's a classic. It's iconic, but it's not one that I'm going to like hop in on a whim?
Yeah. It just seems a little like sentimental about baseball
Yes.
and you know, I gotta be honest, I don't understand why people love The Sandlot.
Oh, now that those might be fighting words.
Yeah, I have I saw The Sandlot a few years ago, and I just did not understand why. I mean, I the Killing Me Smalls thing is obviously classic, but like outside of that, I didn't get the movie all that much. It was maybe a little too coming of age for me, but
That might be it. It's a good point. It's not really a baseball movie if you think about it. It's
yeah,
really a movie about kids navigating through, the relationships at the time and kind of growing up together. And then I think the manifestation, right, is like one day you're going to play that last game on that field with your friends, and nobody knew it was the last game you were going to play.
yeah. So maybe that's why it didn't pick to me. I
That
mean,
might be why it didn't resonate.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure like the first baseball movie I ever watched was Major League. So
Oh, that's
maybe that just like changed my whole mindset. 'Cause I remember seeing Major League as a kid, like on USA Network.
yes. Well, that is setting the bar pretty high. So
Yeah,
I can understand that.
like the USA Network, that movie was just classic for me. That's the other movie that I watch every year before the season started. And we're gonna spoil this movie for you guys just so you know. Did you know that originally, like, you remember the villainous, owner, Rachel Phelps, I think her name was. You remember her from the movie?
Yes.
She was actually supposed to be like a good guy in the movie. See, they had this big plot twist in like the end of the film where like she did all this stuff because she didn't actually have the money and they were actually going to lose the team. Like the team was going to fold if they didn't do well this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like, and I watched the director's commentary, and they were, or writers or something like that, and they were saying like that was the hook that sold the movie and they got it made. But
Okay.
the actress, and I don't remember her name right now, she did such a good job being a villain that like they didn't want her to be the hero and like cheer on the team at the end. They loved it so much more that she was evil.
So almost kind of like that Cameron Diaz Any Given Sunday vibe.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Like she was just so good at being evil that the audience wanted her to stay evil. So that they reshot like scenes at the ending because originally like she was cheering along with everybody at during the final game, and it was like they just had her being the vicious heel at the end of it, and it's just that movie is so great.
It is great.
Yeah. Major League 2, not so much.
No.
Outside of when Roger Dorn gets hit by the baseball, that I think I used that image like a couple times in my fantasy league where like the image of him go, oh
Yeah. It's all encompassing.
yeah. Speaking of fantasy, have you had any chance to do any mock drafts yet?
I have not had a chance to even look at the board. My head is spinning around even thinking about it. We still have free agents out there, big name free agents, and that like pending looming injuries. Like it just feels too soon.
I'll tell you, I've done like at least 5 or 6 mock drafts already. I did one
Okay,
earlier this
key
morning.
takeaways.
Key takeaways. Well, like trying to figure out the first round is going to be interesting this year. It's like, based on my early assessment, it's like I I either want the first pick or like I want like the eighth or ninth pick. I don't want like anything. I don't want like anything but the first pick in the like top five. I
Oh,
feel like
that's
you're gonna,
tough.
yeah, because like right now, I think the top five is obviously Acuna is number one.
Okay.
Like on Yahoo, I'm seeing Bobby Witt is typically number two. Uh, Julio is number three, and then
Okay.
like Corbin Carroll is four, and like Mookie's right around there, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. And Judge is like there too, and it just seems like there's a lot you could basically wait around till like six and probably get whoever you want outside of Acuna, obviously going at the top. I can't imagine anybody being crazy enough to not sign Acuna number one.
100%.
Um, I know since you haven't done anything, have you thought about any players that you're like, no, I'm not touching these players with like 100-foot pole?
Oh, players I'm not touching with 100 foot.
Well, I can give you a couple of mine if you need some time to
Oh
think.
yes, yeah. You start with yours. This will get me
This
started.
one's kind of obvious for me if you know me. I'm not touching Blake Snell. I don't even know.
Fair.
I don't even know where he's gonna be at this point. I'm pretty much assuming he's gonna be stuck with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Los Angeles because they're like one of the only teams I think are gonna be dumb enough to pay him. And either that or the Giants. I feel like those two teams are gonna like just throw stupid money at somebody. Um,
Oh, they're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
have
not.
to.
I'm not touching Snell because I just think I don't like guys who walk a lot of people, and I just think like we've seen the absolute best out of Snell. Like last year, like he was on such a bender for the second half of the season. Like I don't think we're gonna see anything as good as what we saw last year. And like even so, he had like a 4.5 ERA at like the end of May last year. He was not good for the first 2 months, and then he just was unhittable for the last half of the season, and
Yes.
went out on a roll. And here's another guy. This is kind of controversial. I'm not touching Otani, and there's a bit more of a reason for this because this is one of the years that you could really make a decent argument for Otani because he's strictly a DH this year. He's not going to be pitching, but I think that he's going to have a down year. I really do.
Mostly due to the results of the surgery, or
Yes.
okay.
Yes, I think in the when he had the surgery back in 2019, he had pretty much his worst season in the majors. Now, he was a fine player, don't get me wrong, like, but he only hit 18 home runs and had like a 286 batting average, and he was okay, but compared to how he played this hit the rest of the years, he was really down. And I think like even Bryce Harper last year when he was recovering from Tommy John surgery, he wasn't himself until like August. When that kind of happened, like that second half of the season, he got his power back. And I just get the feeling Otani's going to have like a similar season this year.
Yeah, it absolutely could shake out to be that way under those circumstances. There's also, I mean, so much hype, right? And we talk about this a lot in baseball, right? Particularly if you're thinking about going back to last year's Padres, getting back to kind of that whole
Oh
thing.
yeah, a
You know,
ton of
so
pressure.
much hype. Like, what does that really look like when you start to pick apart this season, to your point about Snell, right?
Yeah.
All of those things could greatly impact.
And that Padres team was so weird last season because if you look at like their overall season metrics, like in terms of like the runs that they scored and the versus the runs that they gave up, like that was a playoff team right there. They had
Yeah.
as good as like the Blue Jays or the Brewers, that was where they were at. They were at the very bottom in runs allowed all year. And it was just that they couldn't like they had these big explosion days and then they couldn't score like one or two runs the next day.
It was very much like that. I was spent a lot of the month of July down there, and just the disparity between runs scored from one day to a next was pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I
So
almost wanted to think of it like rollover runs. Like, remember, like rollover minutes on T-Mobile? Can we roll these
yeah.
runs over from
Oh
yesterday? We
yeah.
had 17 yesterday. We've got one today. Can we steal a few?
Yeah. So did they give you enough time to think of any players you don't like?
So I pretty much knew this, but I wanted to let you go first. It's just Rodon, 100%.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere near that. Don't want anything to do with it. Want him to do well. Want to be wrong about it, but nah, not taking any chance on that.
Well, I'll tell you, Rodon is going really late in drafts to the point where it's like you're almost throwing darts out at people right now at that point.
Really?
Going, yeah, he's
So I'm
not
not
going.
alone, is what you're saying. So no.
I mean, yeah, at the point that you're probably going to draft him, it's like he's usually going like after the 15th round.
Wow.
And
So what you're saying is I should consider picking him up for a high upside.
it's possible. I mean, he's not a lot of the draft value, a lot of the draft busts, in my opinion, is terms about where you're going to be drafting them. Like you have to draft Otani pretty much in the second round.
Yeah.
And like it's a lot of value versus where you're having to play them, where you have to pick them. And I've seen Rodon go late enough where it's like, I mean, throwing darts at somebody like I've seen some drafts where like Nestor Cortez isn't going to like the 22nd round or something ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Where
like
has Snell been landing?
Snell is kind of landing in the mid rounds. He typically speaking, like draft values tend to go down as I tend to be lower, excuse me, when guys don't have a team. So like as soon as he gets a team, he will probably go up a bit. I have to let me go pull up the last one I did this morning to see where he ended up. Like Snell went in the 6th round of the draft I did this morning.
So with a team, he's probably going to be really more in that 3rd round sort of scenario.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm
4th.
not sure that high, but
No.
maybe. I mean, it'll move up a little bit. There's a lot of there's kind of a lot of pitching that's like nesting in like that 4th and 5th round range. That's where like Castillo and Freed and Yamamoto and Glass now, a lot of those guys are going. Like
Ooh,
that's
that's
where
a really good group right
there's a
there.
lot of guys in that group. Even
That's a
like
really good
even
group.
Scooble Dooby Doo from the Tigers is going up that high, believe it or not.
He had a great year last year.
Yeah. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I picked him up on the wire.
I would toot toot.
Toot toot.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
would toot it.
So we got a little game we like to play. We've been kind of chatting and texting amongst ourselves. We like to play like yay or nay. So I got a few, you got a few, and we'll kind of just go through them kind of quickly, but kind of explain it as well. So my first yay or nay is the Baltimore Orioles win the AL East. Yay or nay?
Yay.
I'm gonna go nay on that one. I actually think the Yankees are gonna win the AL East this year.
Perfect.
I mean, I'm not saying that out of favoritism. I just think like the Orioles are a team that like are still very young, and I think if they're gonna probably regress, this will probably be the year that they do it. Now, I think they're still gonna make the playoffs, and I think like they still have a better chance of being better this year, especially now that they got an actual ace at the top of the rotation. But
Yeah,
I just think that there's so many young guys on that team. It's like it wouldn't surprise me if a few of them kind of struggle.
that's a fair assessment. They are very young.
And they
There's
don't
a
have
lot of
Bautista at the
newness
back anymore either. He's out this year.
for the whole year, right?
He got Tommy John surgery, as I recall.
Yes.
So you got Craig Kimbrell back there being your primary closer. That makes me a little
That
nervous.
is shaky. That is absolutely shaky. I will give you that. If there is a weakness in this team, it is the back end of their bullpen, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So they're really going to need those kids to produce runs.
Do you got one, or do you want me to go with my next one?
Oh, I do got one.
Okay.
So I have heard that Netflix is going to do a Red Sox documentary somewhat in the fashion of Hard Knocks, not
Yes.
necessarily broadcast in season.
Yeah, that's supposed to come out next year.
How you feeling?
I mean, it's gonna be a dumpster fire of a year. Probably means it's gonna be more entertaining, quite frankly, because the good teams generally don't sign up for these things. And I've got a bit of a Griff diction that I'm gonna make is that they're gonna
Let's hear
fire
it.
Cora mid-season.
Let's hear it.
They're firing Cora mid-season.
Oh, I
As
talked
part
right
of
over it.
Yes.
Cora fired mid-season. Write it down.
For dramatic effect, you gotta have the manager getting fired during the season. I mean, he's already on the last year of his contract, so he's kind of on thin ice as it is, and the team is. I see no reason why this team's going to be anything better than they were the past couple of years. So I just think somebody's gonna get blamed for ownership not wanting to spend money. It's gonna be him.
It's going to be him. Everybody's got to have a fall guy. He's going to be the one.
Yeah.
The question is at what point, right?
Yes. So my next yay or nay is, will the Dodgers win the most games all time, which is 116 plus?
Nay.
I kind of think nay on that as well.
And there's one reason for this and one reason only, and his name is Dave Roberts.
I think Roberts will probably screw things up in the postseason. I think they'll just be fine in the regular season. They're
but not hit 116 wins.
Yeah, but their pitching is just not good enough, I think, to do that. They have so many like injury-prone pitchers. I just don't think they'll hold up long enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's been the consistent theme, right?
Yeah. think next year though they could be really dangerous, but not this year.
All right.
What about you? Got another one?
I do. I do have another one.
Okay.
The Phillies.
The Phillies. What about the Phillies?
They make it to the World Series again?
I'm saying nay on that one.
I would agree.
I think they're a very good team. They'll probably make the playoffs, but I haven't seen enough to get them over the hump. Now, if they decide to go out and maybe grab Montgomery or Snell,
Ooh.
possibly. I
Ooh.
mean, they're one of those teams that I feel like could do that. I feel like they're probably more for Montgomery, but they need something else to get them to overtake the Braves and the Dodgers, or some random team that comes out and does this thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree on that one for sure.
All right, my next one is: would you eat grasshoppers at a baseball game? Yay or nay?
We not.
No, no, you now there's some context to this. In Seattle is famous for their grasshoppers, and I have tried the grasshoppers at the game. In fact, when I went and bought the grasshoppers, like the people at the concession stand were like didn't know what the heck I was asking about when I was trying to order the grasshoppers. And so they come in this little like little plastic case, like almost like a condiment case. And then
Oh.
yeah, so I tried them and they were a little spicy, not the best thing in the world, but they weren't as terrible as everybody would think that they would be. So it's a nay
Interesting.
on that. Yeah.
Maybe that becomes more like if the Yankees win a World Series in the next 5 years, I'll eat a grasshopper at the ballpark.
Yeah. But I think Seattle's the only place that sells them though. It's a specialty there.
Is the World Series coming to Seattle anytime in the next 5 years?
I'm going to say nay, and it's really unfortunate because I want Seattle to do well, and I know there's another manager in our fantasy league that is a diehard Mariners fan. He wants to talk about he wants me to talk about the seventh, eighth, and ninth bullpen usage, and I'm like, I haven't looked enough at that to know outside of maybe Munoz as the closer, but they don't seem like they're going to make the big move that they need to make. They keep doing these trades and little jostle tweaks here and there. I don't see them doing enough to.
Yes, these little jostling tweaks. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just like, what was the point of that? It doesn't seem like there is a net gain of really anything in some of these deals. So I agree, they're going to have to figure that out on a macro level.
And then you got one more. We got time for one more.
I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, I got a quick one. Is Rich Hill a first ballot Hall of Famer? Yay or nay?
Yay!
Yay!
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, in our personal Hall of Fame. So
yes, in my personal Hall of Fame,
yeah.
First ballot, no contest. Are we ever actually going to see him with a jacket on? Unfortunately, probably not.
Did they do the jackets in baseball, or is that a football thing?
No, they have a jacket.
Oh, they do? Okay, that's cool.
I think it's I want to say it's red, white, and blue.
Oh, well, I'll have to Google that when
I mean, that, or if it's not a Hall of Fame jacket, then Derek Jeter just had it custom made for himself, which is entirely possible. So I should probably research and circle back on that.
Yeah. Do you think he plays this year? Because I've heard that he still wants to play.
I do.
I hope to see him, but he may do that Kershaw thing and just not show up in the season.
I think that's going to be what it is, right? Trade deadline comes, everybody's banged up. We're going to roll Rich out there like we have been for the past, 20 years now, right? Plus.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're out of time here. It was great having you, Taylor, and I hope you come back to the future show. I mean, I got other questions I didn't get to ask you, and you'll be happy to know I didn't ask those questions.
Same.
All right. See ya.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.